Well guys, thanks for coming back to another one. Today we are working on a bunch of chef knives. I've got 4 of them I'm kind of working on right now. I've got 3 of them all ground finished. Well, actually 2 of them are finished ground. I'm about to do the 3rd, and I thought I would do a quick video explaining how I grind my chef knives. So I pretty much have one very simple 7-inch blade chef knife design that I do primarily in 52-100 steel. And they're 3/32 thickness is what I find works good. So this is the design. Like I said, 7-inch blade. They work great. I absolutely love them, and I haven't really messed with the design since I did it. So I guess I'm going to show kind of my belt progression and how I get that edge nice and thin before hand sanding. So here's what I'm working on. I actually have hand sanding this blade, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of hand sanding. I'm going to finish grinding this other one. So this is a Damascus one. Like I said, I just started hand sanding, and that's the plunge that we're going for. You guys can obviously do however you want it. A lot of people bring them up a little higher, but that gives you an idea on what grind we're going for. Let's see if it's really hard to show, but this is almost at 0 as far as the edge thickness. I left just a tiny bit on there to so I could hand sand it and get it right to 0 after hand sanding. But I'm going to take a break from hand sanding this right now and show you guys how to grind it. All right, so I got the grinder ready. I've got a 36 grit ceramic Red Label abrasives belt on there. I like to use pretty much new ones when grinding these chef knives because there's so much material you're hogging off. And I do all the grinding after heat treat, which it's totally up to you how you want to do it. I prefer to do it that way, just to avoid warping is mainly why. But it makes grinding them a little bit harder. So right now, this knife here is going to have a full satin finish. Okay, so my flats, I've already got the satin finish done, and I've laid down a little bit of tape, as you can see, underneath my plunge file guide. And just so it doesn't get scratched up while I'm doing my grind on the bevels. So you can see I've got my guide in place where I'm gonna have that plunge line. I've got my center scribe line in there. You can kind of see it, that's cool. And we're ready to grind this thing right now. So what I'm gonna do is pretty much run this wide open, and I'm just hogging off a lot of material and getting that edge down thin. It's real key to keep it cool, constantly dip, keep it cold. But with that 36 grit belt, I'm gonna take this down really thin, and I'll show you guys kind of how far I take it. And that way, kind of how this works is once you get that edge to where it's really thin, it's a lot easier to burn it or ruin your temper. So I like to take it as far as I possibly can with a 36 before switching. Like I go 36, 80, 120, and then 180, 240 normally. So once you get up into those higher grit belts, it's a lot easier to burn your edges. So pretty much I get all my grinding done with that 36 grit belt, and then I'm just really refining that scratch pattern with those finer grit belts and working my way up. So enough of that. I'm gonna flip this on, get grinding, and kind of show you guys along the ways and the different steps I'm taking to get that edge nice and thin. All right, so I'll quickly stop where I'm at right here and show you guys kind of. Okay, so first of all, the evenness of this bevel doesn't matter at all because it's going full flat, okay? So the key right now is just getting that edge nice and thin and not burning it, and trying to make sure you're getting it good and even on your plunge, okay? Make sure that stays good and even all the way, and your edge stays good and even all the way, okay? And as of right now, I'm at about 35 thousandths, okay? So I've still got a long ways to go on that 36 grit, but I wanted to just quickly show you guys what it's looking like And I'm gonna bring this down quite a bit more, obviously, on the 36 before changing belts. Once I get my edge thickness roughly where I want it, I kind of continue to bring this bevel up higher and higher as I'm working that edge thinner. That's totally up to you guys as well. You can see this one is a lot lower than this one, okay? Which doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm gonna bring that up all the way. But my scribe line is what you really want to focus on. And right now I need to bring a little bit more off this side, just looking at that scribe line to make sure it's good and even. But the main thing on this step is keeping your edge even and not getting thinner in certain spots, I guess is kind of how I would explain it. Keep it nice and even. Don't worry about your bevel, top bevel line. Just worry about getting that edge even thickness while you're grinding this, okay? So I'm gonna kick it back on. I'm running this pretty much wide open too, and just constantly dunking and dunking, keeping it cool. You don't wanna mess your temper up while doing this, and that's the tricky part about grinding these. So I'm gonna bring this down thinner. I'm gonna bring my bevel up almost to full flat, okay? When I do these, I bring them all the way up about, I just leave maybe a 1/4 inch with the 36 inch or the 36 grip belt, and then I bring it the rest of the way up with my finer grip belts. So anyways, I'm done rambling. I'm gonna finish this on the 36 and show you guys where it's at. All right, we are done with our 36 grip belt. Getting my other belts down here, and we're going to an 80 right now. And I'm gonna show you really quick kind of what it's looking like. So let me measure the edge thickness here real quick. Because I'm not positive what it's at. I just kind of know off of me eyeballing it. And we are at about 15 thousandths, okay? I think that's how you say it. I'm not a machinist. I don't know. That's just, I use these and they help me give me a good idea. So as I'm not sure how good you're going to be able to kind of tell from me grinding in these time-lapse videos I'm doing. But I got my edge thickness down to where I wanted it, okay, with that 36 grip belt. And as I got that where I wanted, I started applying more pressure up towards the spine, kind of keeping it flat, but just kind of giving it a little more pressure and raising that plunge or that bevel all the way to the top to where you can see I've still got a little bit that is untouched there, okay? Same with on this side. It's a little bit that's not hit yet with that belt. And the reason I do that is if you bring it all the way up with a 36, what happens is as you move up belt progression, you end up digging in a little bit, and you don't want that. You want this to be fully smooth all the way down past your plunge. So basically you're just barely hitting that top part of your plunge with that finer grip belt to flatten it out, even it out. And you don't really want it indenting in there. At least I don't. But like I said, that's all how high you want yours up, whatever you guys want to do with that. This video is more about belt progression and how I grind these edges nice and thin. So that being said, with chef knives, you know, the goal is to get your edge to where it's at 0. So it should be pretty much sharp when it comes off the grinder before you even sharpen it. And I've tested edges a little bit with this, and I brought some down to 5 thousandths and used them a little bit, and I brought some down to 0 and used them a little bit. And those 0 degree bevels do perform a little bit better, obviously, but you also have to know who's going to be using the knife, and kind of judge it off that a little bit. Now, my personal chef knife that I have, it's at 0 because I'm going to take care of it. I kind of know to be a little bit more careful with that 0 degree edge. It's so fine. If you're sending it off to somebody that maybe doesn't have a ton of experience with higher end chef knives, maybe leave just a little bit more on that edge to avoid it from chipping or anything like that. So this one I'm taking all the way to 0 pretty much. And it also, when it comes off the grinder, you have to kind of know how you're going to finish it. So this one is getting a full satin belt finish. Okay, I'm not hand sanding this one at all. So basically, I'm going to finish it right on the grinder. And so that kind of is a variable on how thin you bring that edge. Okay, so you can see, like I said, I'm at about 15 thousandths right now. Let's see, you guys can't really see. And that's about where I bring my hunting knives and stuff like that too. But we put on an 80 grit belt. I'm gonna kick the speed way down on this 80 grit because you can burn it up so fast. Probably run it at about 50% power on your VFD. And the first thing I'm gonna be doing is bringing that edge down a little bit thinner, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the 36. I'm gonna bring it down and then I'm gonna slowly work my way up towards the spine, okay? And like I said, I'm not going all the way flat with it yet, but I'm just gonna get really close, and as I get up to that 180 grit belt is when I'm finally gonna finish off that top spot. At least that's how I do it. The main thing here is you're refining those 36 grit scratches down to an 80 grit scratch and getting that edge down just a little thinner. Go really slow with this step and these next steps. Take it really slow, take your time, dunk all the time, like almost after every little pass. Keep it cool, or else you're gonna burn that edge and you're gonna be mad. So here we go. Let's get this 80 grit belt done. So there is our 80 grit. See right there? I'm not quite to the top there. You can see I brought it up a lot higher. Our edge thickness right now is about 8 thousandths, okay? So we're getting really thin, even 8 thousandths too. Like I said, keep it really even. Constantly watch this spot here to make sure both sides are looking really good and even. And now we're gonna slow it down even more, probably at about 30% power-ish with a fresh, crispy 120 grit belt. And we're gonna get that edge really close to where we want it now. Bring it down to probably about 3 or 4 thousandths or so with this one. And yeah, let's do it. All right, well, I just showed the 120 grit, final kind of 120 grit progression. Now, I'm not gonna show any higher because it's totally up to you how you wanna do it. Now, if you're gonna hand sand finish this blade, take it as high as you want before hand sanding, and just make sure on that final grit, you're going really slow, taking it nice and smooth and easy like you just saw me doing, and really focusing on specific spots on that edge, making sure it's really even. Keep your thumb right up against it, so as soon as it starts to get warm, dunk it and use fresh belts. So I'm doing a belt finish on this, so I'm going to take it up to 240 and do my kind of secret belt finish process. And but yeah, hopefully you learned a little bit about how to kind of get started at grinding chef knives. Right now the edge is almost at 0. It's really hard to show. It's super thin. But yeah, so hopefully you learned something from this video. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments below. I'm not sure how well I covered that. And if you have any ideas for future videos, drop it in the comments below. I really appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for checking it out, guys.